Hit record. All righty, Andrea. Take it away when you're ready.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's dig in. My name's Andrea. For those of you who were with me the last time I was with Erica, we talked about nutrition for womb health, and this time we're going to focus specifically on fertility nutrition to help womb health. Let's dig into it. Today, I really want to focus on some key factors here because there's so much we could cover under the sun. How food impacts egg quality and hormones in conception, what your OB and your doctors might be missing to find patterns of critical root causes for infertility, miscarriages, things like that. The 90-day kind of egg development window that's really important to be aware of. And then simple blood sugar hacks we can use to support hormone balance, as well as what a fertility friendly plate looks like and the best foods to eat in order to nourish your womb. So, just a little bit about me. Again, I'm Drea. You can follow me at Nutrition with Drea. And hi, Amy. Just saw you join there. Um, we are a little bit about my background. For those of you who were with us last time, I talked about these two pictures. The one on the left is not me at my heaviest, and the one on the right is not me at my skinniest or fittest, but they're really pivotal moments of my journey. On the left, I had lost about 20 pounds at that point, but I was still pre-diabetic and very inflamed. I had leaky gut and SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and was really stuck in my weight loss journey, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't feel good. And that was a really pivotal moment because that's when I started learning more about holistic nutrition and got me to a very fit point. But at that fit point, I wasn't feeling my best either, and it wasn't maintainable. So the picture on the right is where I feel the most metabolically fit. I reversed my prediabetes and binge eating disorder. I have little to no restriction with foods, and I was up about 15 pounds from my lowest, but that's where I felt my best. A little bit about my fertility journey. After months of kind of trying to conceive vigilantly through tracking my ovulation and basal body temperature, all these things, I learned kind of through a holistic lens that I wasn't ovulating at the proper time and my body didn't have what it needed to help with implantation of a fertilized egg. So even if I was getting fertilized, if my egg was getting fertilized, it wasn't able to stick properly. So I was nutrient depleted because my body had detox baggage with the pathways, and I wasn't absorbing protein efficiently. So I had really low protein numbers on my labs, even though I ate a lot of protein. And then I was really internally inflamed. There were a lot of like weird markers like high cholesterol and things like that when I don't eat fried foods and whatnot. So I was really confused. But I started seeing all of these as kind of a big pieces of the big puzzle, right? That gave me a lens to see what needed to be fixed and how to go about it. And now I help others and kind of gain the knowledge they need to navigate their fertility journeys. But I have a baby boy, he's 16 months old, and it was quite a journey to get here. So I love the fertility space. I think it's so neat to give so many women hope that infertility really usually has a reason and we can get to the bottom of it. So, going into some really important facts I like to cover, 1 in 6 couples struggle worldwide with infertility. So, it's not just where you like go and try to get pregnant and you get pregnant the first time. Sometimes that happens for women, but a lot of the times it's not the case. And I really like to emphasize that because I want people to not expect that they're, the anomaly or something's going on wrong. A lot of women face this. Um, I think the hardest part about the statistic is that this stat keeps climbing, and instead of asking why, the conventional system often kind of jumps straight to prescriptions or procedures or IUI, IVF. And what I want you to hear today is this, that infertility is not a mystery. Most of the time, it often has root causes, and hormones and nutrients, blood sugar, gut health, These things really matter deeply, and they're things we can actually work on. Your body is asking for support in a language that's been ignored for too long, and that's why the holistic space is growing so much. And then next, each human egg cell contains between 100,000 to 600,000 mitochondria. That's more than any other cell in the body. And since mitochondria generate over 90% of cellular energy, nutrient support for mitochondria is essential for egg quality and follicle development, fertilization, implantation, and embryo growth. So it's really important, just that third fact, nutrition influences hormones, cycles, and implantation. Goes along with that one. So good to keep in mind there. Let's get into the 90-day egg quality. Your diet and your lifestyle shape your egg that you release 3 cycles from now. So what you're eating and drinking and doing right now is affecting your fertility in 3 months. So let's dive a little deeper. Month one, during this first period, well, let's talk about the overall 90-day phase. Before an egg reaches full maturation, the eggs are changing, right? And they're preparing for ovulation. And at this time, they're affected by both your healthy and your unhealthy influences. So if we zoom out, all of us are focused on that 2-week wait usually, but let's look at the 90-day wait that your egg goes through before it even meets the sperm. So month one, we're going to start with a microscopic primordial follicle that's been dormant since you were in utero. And over that first month, it kind of wakes up and does a massive round of like DNA repair and adds layers of support cells, all of which need raw materials like folate and B12 and zinc. So think of these as key nutrients that help to lay that foundation of the egg's quality as it matures. Month two, now comes this mitochondrial explosion where an egg ultimately packs up to the 600,000 mitochondria, like we talked about, and that's literally its energy grid for fertilization and the embryo's first few divisions. So, antioxidants, CoQ10, omega 3s all keep these mitochondria humming and protect them from oxidative hits. Meanwhile, new blood vessels form around the follicle, and every time you eat vitamins, your breakfast, your body's ferrying that into the egg, carrying it on a ferry. Month three, in this final month, hormone receptors flip on, and one superstar follicle gets drafted for ovulation and finishes maturing under FSH and LH. And here, fat-soluble vitamins and DHA and selenium, especially vitamin D in the follicular fluid, correlate with embryo quality. They found this in IVF studies. So when you go for that sunny walk and eat a nutrient-dense lunch tomorrow, that literally is affecting your egg. So just know that everything is very intertwined. Everything you do. Bottom line, I want you to take away from this slide is that what's on your fork is already scripting the success or the struggle of the egg you'll ovulate 3 cycles from now. Let's go into some foundational pillars of egg quality. So, number one is womb care. Castor oil packs are great because they help increase circulation to the reproductive system, and they're also really beneficial for supporting detoxification and reducing inflammation. And then we have abdominal fertility massage. Hello, Erica. Just one of the best therapies for increasing blood flow to the reproductive system by massaging the uterus and the ovaries. It brings fresh, oxygenated blood to the ovaries and removes stagnant blood. And then hormonal balance. So this is a big one when I work with clients because it's essential for proper egg health. Because of all these environmental factors, the world we live in now, stress, modern diet, all of these women are becoming really hormonally imbalanced. And if our hormonal imbalance is off, the eggs may not respond and the fertility cycle gets out of balance and ovulation may not occur. And so an intricate hormonal symphony is kind of at play every month and in preparation and fulfillment of the fertility cycle. So sometimes we need to support hormones through detoxification pathways. If let's say your liver's backed up, which is what filters your hormones, and your liver doesn't have enough bile acid to help everything filter properly, you're going to get too much estrogen stuck, for example, and then you'll see high estrogen levels on your labs because you're not filtering it properly. Then on to nutrition. Um, Obviously, this directs your egg health by providing really essential building blocks, right? So folate, B12, choline, CoQ10, omega-3s, they all support DNA repair and mitochondrial energy production, and this hormone synthesis through the 90-day egg development cycle. Supplements are really key here. So CoQ10 is a big one. It enhances mitochondrial energy production, but and protects developing eggs from oxidative stress. So this is really critical for that 90-day maturation window. And there are two forms of CoQ10 that a lot of people don't know. There's ubiquinone and ubiquinol. And we always say none of ubiquinone and all of ubiquinol. CoQ10 starts off as ubiquinone, and then it is converted within the cell to a more powerful form, ubiquinol. And as a woman ages, her body's ability to convert that ubiquinone to ubiquinol declines. And so we want to make sure we're looking for CoQ10 with ubiquinol because it is 8 times more potent than ubiquinone, and a lot of us have a problem with that conversion. So it's a waste of a supplement if you get the ubiquinone most of the time. All of ubiquinol and none of ubiquinone, if that helps. And then antioxidants, vitamin D also, I have under supplements. A lot of, I mean, I would say 9 times out of 10 on labs, all of us are deficient. We want to see that number above 60 for optimal fertility range. Vitamin D affects the uterine lining, which is where the egg goes to implant. And if you don't have enough thickness built up, the egg can't stick. And if you've had an IUD in the past, sometimes it basically sheds your lining really thin. And so in order to thicken that lining back up, vitamin D plays a huge role here. And then prenatals, one thing I always like to test on labs with clients is if they can handle if they need a methylated version, because if you have a methylation issue, you're not able, and your prenatals don't have the right form of folate, then you're not getting that. And we need that prior to um, conception, hopefully, so that the egg has enough folate to start off with. Antioxidants, I think like matcha, right? Antioxidants are one of the most important components to having healthy fertility um, because they help protect the eggs from free radicals, free radical damage. And free radicals are able to damage cellular health, including the cell's DNA. And this could have an effect on the ability to get pregnant and sustain a healthy pregnancy and may increase the chances of possible birth defects as well. So, the ovum, which is an egg, is one of the longest living cells in your body. And as the years pass, your eggs become exposed, right, and vulnerable to free radicals on a daily basis, and it adds up. So we want to be supporting our body through antioxidants to help protect our eggs. And then lifestyle seems like an easy one, right? I didn't change my words here, but basically sleep quality, blood sugar, stability, stress, all of that plays a huge role. Moving on to blood sugar and our hormones. Basically, blood sugar balance is so important because when your body breaks down food into glucose, which fuels your cells, um, your this is the way I like to describe it. If you think of your stomach as a kitchen sink, here's the tube, right? Here's your digestion happening. The first thing you eat is going straight into your bloodstream. So we have 3 macronutrients that I like to focus on: carbs, fats, and proteins. When we think of carbs, I want you to think of 2 buckets. You have low glycemic and high glycemic. The low glycemic carbs are things like berries and vegetables, things that are high in fiber, so they will process slower into your bloodstream. High glycemic carbs are our processed carbs, breads, pasta, those kind of things. Those turn really quickly into energy in the form of energy in your body. So when we pair our foods, we want to think of eating fats and proteins first because they move slower into the bloodstream. So here's our stomach, and if you have a slice of avocado first, which is a fat, and then some chicken, which is a protein, and then some sweet potatoes, which are a high glycemic carb, then that avocado at the bottom is going to go slowly into the bloodstream and slow down how fast those sweet potatoes would be going into the bloodstream, right? To switch that around, if we had the sweet potatoes first and then the chicken and then the fat, the sweet potatoes would go whoop because there's nothing in the way to help slow that down. So we really want to focus on pairing our foods as best as we can. And with my clients, we go very in depth into this and cover all food groups and macronutrients so that you can become an expert at this. Um, but one thing I like to kind of mention about glucose is just that we need to understand what it is. It's a sugar that's in your found in your blood, and it acts as the main energy source for your cells. So all sugars and carbs are broken down into glucose. And so, like we were saying, when you eat starchy or sugary foods, your blood glucose shoots up and your blood sugar rises and insulin is released. And insulin's job is to help glucose enter your cells so it can be used as energy. And once glucose moves into your cells, your blood sugar drops back down. But if these blood sugar spikes are extreme, it can take your energy and mood rapidly up and then you crash. That's when you like feel like crap or have that midday slump because sometimes we don't eat breakfast and sometimes we don't eat lunch. And if a sharp spike goes on for too long, I'm talking months, years, it can increase the risk of prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, other health conditions, PCOS. I probably had this going on in my body for 10 years and didn't know. And so when I found out I was pre-diabetic, it was because I wasn't aware, wasn't paying attention to this spike and drop I was doing to myself over the course of many years. And I was headed straight for diabetes. So I had to really work hard to reverse that. I love to cover this slide. This was our last one as well. Just how to build a balanced plate. So I really want you to focus on fiber first. And if you're like, what is a fiber? Think of vegetables, leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, cucumber, zucchini, chia seeds, flax seeds, those kind of things are fibrous foods. Then next, you would eat your protein and healthy fats. Think meat, eggs, fish, avocado, olive oil, nuts. These kind of help support satiety and keep your blood sugar steady. I love full fat, like cottage cheese, yogurt, if you can have dairy. And then last, you want to eat your starches and your sugar, right? So, sweet potatoes, we talked about, fruit, gluten-free bread, if you're gluten-free, have them last. So, when we look at this plate, most of us want the bread first because we're human and we crave carbs. That's just our innate want. So, just like when you go to Olive Garden and they serve you bread and butter, it's because they know that turns on your hunger signals. And while that's great for restaurants, it's not great for us because it makes us overeat. So we want to be mindful. Like when I go to a restaurant as a pre-diabetic, I always order a side of veggies if I'm getting bread first. So like I'll get like the Brussels sprouts or the broccoli, and I'll have that alongside the bread to slow down that spike I'm going to get from the bread. So if I had this on my plate for dinner tonight, I would do my best to have a couple bites of the avocado and some veggies or egg first, and then I'd have a bite of the bread. Following along here? Okay,
I have a
great.
question, Drea.
Yeah,
How would you eat a cheeseburger?
good question. I would lettuce wrap it,
Okay.
but let's say you love bread. What I do is I just take off half the bread sometimes. Um, if you can, but what I would do is have a salad first or some veggies. Not a full salad, just, a bites of something fibrous that's going to slow down the effect. Now, you're eating a burger with protein from the meat, right? And then cheese typically is high in fat depending on the quality of the cheese, and how that reacts in your body. But I would just aim to have some vegetables first before you eat the burger. You can let us wrap it. extreme, or just take off half the bun, but just have some veggies first and you'd be okay. Great question. Moving on to some fertility-friendly foods. I really want to focus more on the nutrients you get specifically than like a long grocery list, which we could do, but let's focus here first. So, hormones build themselves from the ingredients you provide through your diet. And what you don't eat is just as important as what you do eat. And the number one um, study showed that the cause of infertility is inovulation. So that means lack of ovulation, and that can often be remedied by changes in the diet. It's one of the most strongest ways to remedy inovulation. So it's really powerful to know that what you eat has so much control over fertility. Starting with vitamin E, it's known to improve, this is important here, sperm health and motility in men, actually. One Tunisian study published in the Journal of Archives of Andrology found that sperm motility, percent of live sperm, and percent of normal spermatoza all increased with vitamin E supplementation and selenium. And then studies have also showed that a diet deficient in vitamin E tends to cause infertility in rats. And then the name vitamin E itself, tocopherol, means literally bear young, B-E-A-R, bear young, which is so interesting. But vitamin E is just very important for antioxidants. It's an important antioxidant to help protect sperm and egg DNA integrity. So both women and men should be getting vitamin E in. Sunflower seeds, almonds, olives, spinach, papaya, dark leafy greens, all are high in vitamin E. So those are pretty easy foods to consume. I think of almonds, I'm thinking a handful, right? Spinach, I'm thinking my lunch, a good cup or two. And then moving on to C, C improves hormone levels and increases fertility in women with luteal phase defect, specifically in a study that was published in Fertility and Sterility. But as for men, vitamin C has been shown to improve sperm quality and protect sperm from DNA damage, which helps just reduce the chance of miscarriages, chromosomal problems, things like that. Um, and then also, vitamin C helps to keep sperm from clumping together, making them more motile. So, very important vitamin here as well. I have a super C I take that's great. And just because I know I don't get enough of it in my diet, but you can look at peppers, broccoli, cranberries, cabbage, potatoes, tomatoes, citrus fruit. All of these are great whole food sources for vitamin C. We think of, I think, I don't know, oranges and things like that, but that's just one of many. On to folic acid and folate, which we think of in prenatals as like that main ingredient, right? It's one of the best known vitamins necessary for pregnancy. And the common supplement form is naturally occurring folate, which is found in many foods. And this vitamin helps prevent neural tube defect as well as congenital heart defects, cleft lips, limb defects, urinary tract anomalies in developing fetuses. So we really want this in your bloodstream and in your nutrient stores before pregnancy. And deficiency in folic acid could increase to higher risk of preterm labor and fetal growth retardation, low birth weight. So we want to make sure we're getting the right form of folate. So one thing you really want to make sure you know about yourself is whether or not you need the methylated form or just assume that you might. It's that MTHFR gene where you have an issue with converting the folate. So I would always look for prenatal vitamins that have the methylated folate version. And I have like three really great options if you need references to some prenatals. And then last is iron. Iron is fantastic for so many reasons in fertility, but lentils, spinach, sesame seeds, kidney beans, pumpkin seeds, garbanzo beans, navy beans, molasses, those are all fantastic sources. We also have zinc on this list. Some repeats with legumes and lentils, but tofu, walnuts, cashew, nuts, chia seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, things you can throw in salads and smoothies are usually great. But zinc is an important one here. And it can easily be damaged by cooking. So you want to make sure when you're buying walnuts, cashews, those kind of things, you're buying them raw. A lot of the nutrients gets cooked off at high temperatures. So what I like to do is buy like at Costco, like a big bulk bag of raw walnuts and pecans and pepitas or pumpkin seeds, and then toast them myself. 375 for 8 minutes with cinnamon and coconut oil. And then you have your own toasted nuts that you don't need to worry about all the nutrients getting cooked off. Some of them will just because they'll get toasted, but they taste better, but they're still pretty heavy in nutrient density. So when you buy roasted nuts, just keep that in mind. You're buying pretty much dead nuts because that nutrients gets killed off. Essential fatty acids, we think fish, but flax seeds, chia seeds, and walnuts are great sources of essential fatty acids as well. And then selenium, cremini mushrooms, Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are actually kind of an interesting taste, but they have a big bag at Costco sometimes. And then the things we want to avoid, we all know these things, and they're not realistic to completely avoid, but they do have a really strong effect on fertility. So sugar, soda, sugary juices, fried foods, caffeine. We want to consume no more than 2 cups a day, as they found studies where it can increase the risk for miscarriages and having too much caffeine going through your system. And we always want to keep the caffeine to the morning or early afternoon, not too late in the day. Processed meats, we really want to focus on high quality meats, high quality dairy. Um, and we want to avoid a low fat diet. Fat is super important for hormone health. There's tons of studies coming out, and I know this world is so controversial because we see low fat and we think, oh, that's got to be better, right? We think fat is fat, but actually what happens is that low fat items get replaced with fillers to give them that like texture, and those are so much worse for us, and the actual fat is has been proven to be really beneficial to help us even with weight loss. And alcohol and sugar as well are just not your best friends during fertility. They're inflammatory and toxic for your body. And what we want to do is move your internal system away from a place of inflammation and more into a place of I'm ready to bring life into this world because I'm not inflamed. So a lot of the times we see a lot of internal inflammation going on. The body isn't ready to carry life because there's so much inflammation going on from sugar and alcohol, especially if you're sensitive to these things and you don't know it. Things your OB and your doctor might be missing. I don't want to bash on OBs and doctors, right? They're great. We need Western medicine. It's a huge part of this. I do focus more on the holistic side of things. But day 3, we can actually find your LH and FSH ratios, and they tell us a lot about your ovulatory health, whether you're ovulating too late or too early. If that egg is not ripe, that sperm will probably not be able to penetrate it. So, these are things you can fix through your diet as well as acupuncture, blood flow, circulation. All of these things affect when you ovulate. So, finding that information out is crucial, especially if you've been trying or don't know what your cycle feels like or if you have irregular periods. And then we'd want to look at a thyroid panel. And a lot of the times, your OB might say your thyroid looks fine, but optimally for fertility, we want to see it between 1 and 2 for that TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone. We can also see if there's potential autoimmune issues going on, if that's out of range, which is in range in Western medicine. So we can identify potential autoimmune issues and red flags for it just by seeing your TSH number, where an OB might say you look fine. Vitamin D is a huge one. I believe 30 is acceptable in the Western medicine ranges. We want to see it 60 or higher. There's a study that shows the most healthy people in the world have vitamin D levels around 100. So 70 to 80 would be best. And if you're taking a vitamin D supplement, and we get your labs back and you're at like 28, we know you have an absorption issue. So there are two problems. Either you're not taking enough vitamin D in your supplement or your body is not absorbing it properly. It's a fat soluble vitamin, so you always want to make sure you're taking it with a fat, like avocado oil or cottage cheese. Um, some vitamin D, like the best form of vitamin D, is in liquid form, like the dropper, and those are in MCT oil, so that helps with the absorption. If you need any of supplement recommendations too, I am offering my practitioner account discount of 20% off any supplements to this group specifically. So there's a great vitamin D liquid that I've seen improve a lot of numbers that I know works well, that I can send to you guys if you need it. And then inflammation and gut health is a huge one. Our gut plays a major role in fertility because it's got so much going on in there and it helps with estrogen clearance, immune balance. This all relates to the liver as well. But you have this mucosal lining in your gut, and if that mucosal lining is damaged, then things can get in and out, and that permeability is affecting the health of your gut. So we have to focus on fixing your gut a lot of the times, especially if you have really bad constipation, gassiness, bloating, and those can all be signals of other things going on, like H. pylori, which is the bacteria, leaky gut, things like that. And then we have to consider the male. A lot of the times, OBs don't even bring up the partner. They're 50% of the equation. So it's really important to have your partner either doing a sperm analysis, if you are deep into trying and having no results. It's not always on the woman. It sometimes can be on the man, and the testosterone levels, the sperm health, the quality, all things that are pretty easy to reverse. So it's just being aware of what needs to be the focus. Just wanted to share a case study of one of my clients. She wanted to have a healthy pregnancy. She was trying for a year and a half. She had really bad sleep issues, just could fall asleep easily, but kept getting up in the middle of the night, waking up groggy, really bloaty and gassy after meals, irregular and heavy periods. Had been to all her doctors and written off as nothing, nothing substantial was going on in her labs. She had a miscarriage early on into them trying, and everyone just said, keep trying, everything looks fine. So we discovered that she had prediabetes and Hashimoto's and mineral deficiencies. All of her detox pathways were backed up and sluggish. So it was blocking hormone clearance. And so we really worked to open up her detox pathways, clear out toxins, came up with a really solid food plan that was very specific to her bio-individual needs and nutrients. Like she needed more B12 and B6. And then helped with her blood sugar regulation. We had her wear a glucose monitor for a month and saw a lot going on internally. At night, she was going like this, like a roller coaster all night long. And that played a huge, and that was because of what she was eating earlier in the day, and how it's so interesting to see how your blood sugar gets affected from what you were doing the day before. But anywho, she is now pregnant, due any day. It took her about 4 months to get her body back in the right place, but I think of 3 of those months of working on her eggs, right? We were working on the quality and the health of her eggs, and that was a huge focus, as well as getting her body less inflamed internally. Um, and yeah, so if you want to go deeper, I offer one-on-one nutritional therapy for all things health. It could be fertility, postpartum, weight loss, autoimmune disorders, anything you are going through and have questions on. I'm here to help. I feel like I'm fairly reasonable in terms of pricing and what I can offer, so that I have different ways I can work with you in your budget. But if you'd love to kind of get more information, I do free discovery calls, and we can kind of chat through your health challenges and where areas of struggle that you may be in, and where we need to go from here, if we need labs, all those things. I carry a certification for reading labs in functional optimal ranges. So that is a huge part of our journey, and making sure we're getting the data of what's going on internally to consider into your whole health plan. Any questions?
Actually, yes. Thank you, Dre. That was so great. And I need to reach out to you because my husband and I, we want to start trying to conceive again. But I haven't had labs done in over a year. He hasn't had his sperm checked recently. So we want to, do a check-in with all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to know where you're at for sure.
We
That's
appreciate,
exciting though.
yeah, it's exciting. But yes, I appreciate you highlighting that it's not just on the woman because it takes two people to make a baby. But yes, I actually wanted to ask you about, I think I'm pronouncing this right, maca.
Oh, yes, maca.
Is that similar to matcha? I'm not really sure the difference.
Maca is fantastic. So maca is definitely something you want to consider. Here, I have a whole document on it. Actually, let me pull it up. Um, it's one of those antioxidants that's really well known for fertility.
Okay.
Uh, it's a Peruvian root, I believe. That yes, and basically, it can help with hormone balance, energy, libido, fertility in both men and women. And it comes in various colors, so yellow, red, black, and all of them have unique effects, interestingly enough. But the way it kind of impacts female fertility is that it kind of works through the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, to help balance your own hormone production. So it kind of helps with estrogen and progesterone balance. It can support ovulation, reduce PMS and perimenopausal symptoms. It can really have a good effect on stress as well because it's acts as an adaptogen, helping the body kind of better handle and reduce cortisol's impact on reproductive hormones. And yeah, so it's a great thing to consider for sure. It might not be the best for PCOS,
Okay.
um, but in some with androgen dominance or high DHEA testosterone, it may overstimulate.
Okay.
And if you have thyroid issues, um, might have some issues there too, or histamine or mast cell issues you want to be careful of. But if you're going to take maca for fertility, try half a teaspoon of gelatinized maca in uh, powder or a 500 milligram capsule daily. Um, yeah, great question. Awesome.
Yeah, I want to just say thank you, and so much information, and it was amazing, and I really love the part where like the specific order of foods that just like blew my mind right there. Like
Yeah,
I
it
had
is.
no idea.
It's so confusing because you hear all these,
Yeah,
yes, the order matters. Every time
yeah.
we just think, what is the first thing I can put in to slow down my glucose spike? Because
Mm-hmm.
without wearing a monitor, just assume all carbs will spike you, and that's okay. It's okay to spike. We're always going to spike, like from a meal that has carbs in it. But the thing that matters most is how quickly you come down from that spike, how your body's responding with insulin, and we can't continuously overload our system with carbs first. So be really mindful of fibrous veggies or protein. So when I make breakfast in the morning and I have my chia seed pudding and then eggs and sausages, I'm trying to eat the eggs and sausages first because I know that I have banana and fruits in my chia
Mm-hmm.
seed pudding. So that's going to help slow down any spike I would get from the fruit. So, yeah, it just basically helps to stabilize your glucose levels. And that stable line equals more energy and more stability without those crashes and those slumps. If you're feeling heavy crashes and slumps, it's probably because you're on a roller coaster of having carbs spike you and then dipping. So, yeah. But
Awesome.
thank you, Amy. I'm glad you found it helpful.
Yeah, and I had you said that so I recently came off of my birth control, so I had the Nexplanon on in, and you said something about the lining
Hmm.
affects what nutrient like vitamin D?
Is a huge one. So think of your
Okay.
and progesterone, but think of your lining like in your uterus
Hmm.
as being where the egg sticks. So when the egg gets fertilized in the fallopian tube and it comes down, it has to implant into your uterine lining. And that lining can often get shed really thin from birth control. It happens. So we have to build that lining back up. And that's what your period is. You're shedding that
Mm-hmm.
lining every month.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are building that lining back up, we have to support your body in doing that so it's thick enough for the egg to stick. Because if it's not, that fertilized egg will just boop, bounce off and turn into a period. So we want to support that with vitamin D. We'd have to look at your labs and things, but there's different ranges. I recommend, like, the month I got pregnant, I took 50,000 IUs in a tablet and then 10,000 IUs every day, which is a lot. But I was so critically low, it was insane. And I think it was a huge reason for my infertility. But there's a lot at play with thickening the lining, including nutrients and foods and all that. But D is a big one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, should we wrap it up?
Yes,
Call it a night?
thank you so much, Drea. That was awesome. I appreciate you so much. And I will be sharing your information along with the recording with everyone via email. Um,
Sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi. Thanks for coming, Amy.
Mhm.